Drones are no longer part of the story in modern warfare. They are the story. From Ukraine to Iran's expanding drone network, unmanned systems are rewriting how wars are fought, how militaries buy weapons, and how fast battlefields move. In Ukraine, we've seen a full-scale drone revolution, tens of thousands of low-cost FPV, first-person view drones deployed every month, and the design of these things is evolving in weeks, not years. Ukrainian forces are even using maritime drones to challenge Russian naval power in the Black Sea. Russia has responded too by fully institutionalizing drone warfare, from using them for real-time video feed, shortening the kill chain to minutes, using loitering drones to keep constant surveillance on the battlefield. And by the way, it's not just Europe. China reportedly dominates much of the global drone supply chain and is developing AI-enabled drones that can operate in swarms, okay? Swarm-capable AI systems. Now, as we think about this, Iran has perfected the model of cheap drones that can overwhelm defenses and project power through proxies. NATO is racing to keep up and investing in technology to detect and intercept drones. So as we talk about this, on top of the constant buzz overhead, the persistent surveillance, the blurring of front lines, the psychological component, the real question now is not whether drones will define the next war. It's who can scale them fastest, defend against them best, and control what happens when AI starts making targeting decisions at digital speed. For this, I want to bring in somebody who knows a lot about drone warfare, Andrew Valkenburg. He's the owner of the drone company Strategic Logics and a retired Army officer who specialized in complex breaching operations, combat engineering. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for your service. How important are drones to warfare now? Did I miss anything? And by the way, is the United States in any way leading the way, or are they playing catch up?
Yeah, thank you. I think that actually, in a lot of ways, the US is leading the way in high end systems specifically. Even 15, 20 years ago, the US was implementing autonomy, AI, long range strike systems, high dollar, high precision systems. But in the low cost, mass produced, attritable drones, I think we're playing a little bit of catch up. Modern war is now about like scale and speed. It's not really necessarily about sophistication. We optimized for exquisite platforms a long time ago, and relearning these processes and trying to match these models that we're seeing played on modern day battlefields is a learning curve. I think we're behind a bit in production tempo and possibly some procurement agility. And winning the next war isn't going to depend on who has the best drone. It's going to depend on who can adapt and replenish faster.
What about defeating a mass drone attack? You see Iran, they have this cheap disposable model. It's hard to stop. I mentioned swarms are a new thing. How do you defend against a swarm of these things?
Well, I think that defense against these systems in all facets is it's a layered approach or it's none. There's no real silver bullet for defeating any of these systems. I think that every system is optimized for a specific use case, environment, and situation, and defeating them is no different. Certain drones are fiber optically controlled that are employed all the time in Ukraine right now, and you can't jam those. You have to go after them with hard kills and kinetic strikes. And I think that layering our defense approach, whether it's on U.S. soil or globally, is the approach that we have to go for.
Just want to follow up on something, and I mentioned before, you talked about it too. I'm saying reportedly China dominates a huge share of the drone market, the components. How vulnerable are we? How vulnerable is the West to, access to motors, sensors, electronics? If there's a chokehold on that, what is the fastest fix, realistically?
Yeah. I think you said it right. The West designs a lot of drones, but China owns a lot of the supply chain around subcomponents like motors and batteries and sensors. And I think that, contrary to popular belief, there are quite a few companies right now producing massive scales of subcomponents right here in house. And those companies care a lot about quality, care a lot about price, care a lot about accessibility. And so that problem is becoming less serious, I think, on the United States side, but it's not something we need to, pump the brakes on just yet. It's something that we need to take very, very seriously and continue working forward. It's like you said, the supply chains. When we started implementing regulations against Chinese components, it was about cybersecurity back in 2019. It wasn't necessarily about supply chain security. And I think if you're going to fight a sustained drone war, relying on adversary-linked supply chains is a recipe for disaster. And industrial independence is becoming national security.
100%. And sustained drone warfare, I mentioned the supply chain. What about the kill chain? What should we be thinking about in practical terms, from spotting a target to destroying it, if we're talking about war right now at potentially a digital speed? Am I understanding this correctly?
Yeah, I think so. Drones are collapsing surveillance and decision and strike and assessment into one continuous loop. And the side that shortens that loop is who's going to win. Traditionally, we used to have to find, fix, track, target, engage, and assess, with different people, different steps. And now we're seeing one drone, sometimes one operator, like you said, in swarm operations, doing that all in minutes. Add AI into the mix, you're adding auto target recognition, you're adding assisted navigation, you're adding autonomous terminal guidance, and it's creating decision pressure on commanders. They have to act faster than ever in order to not slow down their drone operators. And conversely, units are having less time to move. I think that's why tactically it's viable, however, is because units have less time to think twice before they move or maneuver.
By the way, don't you have a drone with you? Was I wrong? Or do you have one with you?
Yeah, I do.
You didn't even, you should show that thing off.
Yeah, so this is the Matrix 7. I think we're blurred right now. Let me see if I can. Oh, geez.
Okay, no, it's good. It's getting its close-up shot. It's glamour shot there. What does that one do?
Here.
What does
this is the Matrix 7. This is our flagship product at Tandem Defense, our new drone company under Power Us. Power Us is taking pretty seriously accessibility, and so is Tandem Defense. As a former acquisitions professional, the number one frustration inside U.S. military supply chains is about accessibility. It's because systems weren't previously compliant. They weren't American made. They had long lead times. They weren't directly addressing a capability gap. And sometimes the cost was astronomical. And so accessibility to us is about solving those four facets and pushing those systems.
And I think you're doing a great job of this, and I think you have definitely provided an educational lesson, because I didn't know anything about drones. I've learned more about drones the last 2 nights than I currently have. Andrew Valkenburg, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.